When you were growing up, go back to the first memories that you have. How did you see yourself in life? You formed your own vision. Tell us about that.
The only thing I can remember is when I was really young, and I'm speaking of 2 years old. And I'm sure I didn't know anything about life, except that it probably was about me, I probably thought. But at any rate, my mother was playing the piano. She had a beautiful voice and played the piano very well. And there were others with her. I remember her cousin was there. I can actually remember this. It could be that because they told me about it afterwards, but I do remember standing at the piano. I remember listening to her play the Irving Berlin "What'll I Do," and I knew that I loved music. That I must have known from the beginning. My mother read to me and sang to me all the time. She was pregnant with me, and obviously that made a difference in my life. And I'm sure I had the genes, the music genes too. But at any rate, she played this beautiful song. It was an Irving Berlin song at that time, and it was popular. And interestingly enough, now it's become sort of a classic pop number. But I heard her sing and play, and I'm sure that I sang along with them. And then they stopped, and then I stood at the piano because it was too small to sit on the chair. And I stood there and played the melody on the piano. And it was that moment, probably they recognized that I had some musical ability.
How did you carry forward with that?
It was so natural because there was music all around me all the time. With my mother playing and my father singing, and so it was just natural. Music was everywhere. And when, we owned the family newspaper, the family did, and it was a weekly newspaper, small town. So we would get complimentary tickets to various concerts, and we were just 8 miles, 9 miles from Iowa State University, and Iowa State had these great concerts. And so when I was 5 years old, I had heard Gallicurci, I had Lawrence Tibbett, I'd heard Rubinstein, and then it was very interesting because, in fact, at this German pianist that was there, Gieseking, and I applauded so hard I sprained both of my wrists, and they had to take me to the physician because I'd clapped so hard for this. And the amazing thing is, too, that I met him again in Germany when I was working on my doctorate. And that was very exciting. And I told him that I had sprained my wrists applauding him when I was 2.
At what point did you determine what you wanted to be in life?
I was always performing. And I think that because the decade after World War I, and when I was so tiny, I would see these people in uniform all the time. That probably started a lot of things. But I would play and sing for them. And even on 4th of July, the little town of Story City would have a gathering in the park, which was a beautiful, large park, with a bandstand. And when I was 5, I would play. They had me play, and sometimes even take requests for popular numbers that I would play by ear. And I did that every 4th of July for years, even after I went to college and came back and played. And then also in school, I had the lead when I was in 2nd grade in the all-school operetta, which was a great experience for me. But I think I was leaning for sure in the direction of performance. One of the things that I did want to do, I wanted to teach people to do these things. And so even when I was in 7th grade, my piano teacher, who had too many students, and so she said, "Would you mind taking the 5-year-olds?" And of course, I was pretty young myself, being in 7th grade, and I'd started school when I was just barely 5. So, so I taught these youngsters, 5-year-olds, when I was in 7th grade. I actually got a bad check from one of them. I think they paid 50 cents a lesson, which really was much too much for what I was doing. But anyway, but I did get a bad check. But my father used it as a learning situation. I went to my dad and I said, I don't know. It was only a check for $5, but it bounced. And so I went to my father and said, now, I don't know what to do about this. And he said, I think that you should go to the bank. And of course, in a small town, you know everybody. And we all knew that this man had the money, so there must have been some mistake someplace. That's what they knew. I didn't know this in 7th grade. So anyway, he made me go see the president of the bank. He was a 7th grade teacher of my little 5-year-old. So I did, and showed it to him, and he said, oh, I'm confident this is a mistake. And he said, would you like me to call? And I said, yes, but I'd like to sit here when you call him. You know, which was pretty impudent on my part.
And how did that go?
Oh, it was a mistake. Actually, it was a mistake. And so consequently, then I learned. That was my lesson, and it was a good lesson for me to learn. But I can remember walking in that bank, and my father made me go alone. And I do remember walking in there and being a little bit afraid of this nice older man that was the president of the bank, a president of the bank.